Right after his enlightenment, the Buddha said something very interesting.
佛陀開悟之後呢，佢講咗幾句非常有意思嘅説話。
He said, "How wonderful! Everything already has it. Everything already has Buddha nature."
奇在一切都有佛性。
Then he added, "But human beings don't know that, and because of that, they suffer."
但係人唔明白呢一點，所以人受苦。
So this is very interesting because what it means is that the reason we suffer, the reason we have so much pain in our life, is because we don't understand what we truly are.
呢一句非常之有意思，佢講出就係我哋受苦點解呢？就係因為我哋唔明白真正嘅自己。
In fact, all of Buddhism is based on this one single, simple question.
其實佛教所教嘅一切呢，都係基於一個好簡單嘅議程。
What am I?
我是誰？
What is a human being?
乜嘢係人呢？
Why are we on this planet?
點解我哋活喺呢個星球上面呢？
Why do we suffer so much?
點解我哋都受苦呢？
So all human beings try to get out of suffering.
所有人都想離苦。
And the reason they want to do that is because it hurts.
個原因就係受苦令到我哋受傷害。
And the Buddha said this hurting comes from the fact that we want something.
佛陀有講，呢個傷害嚟自我哋嘅慾望，我哋要得到一啲嘢。
And because we want something, we hurt.
因為我哋想得到一啲嘢，所以我哋受傷。
And more than that, we create suffering for other humans and other beings that we share this planet with.
咁唔單止令到自己受害、自己受傷，仲令到所有其他嘅眾生喺個地球上面嘅眾生都受害。
And in the end, we even harm the earth and the air and the water. Human beings cause a lot of trouble.
唔單止其他嘅眾生，仲傷害到地、水同埋空氣。
So all the great religions of the world deal with this problem.
所有嘅宗教呢，都要面對呢個同樣嘅問題。
It's the problem of human beings living on this planet and not knowing what they truly are.
就係人活喺呢個地球上面，但係人嘅根本唔明白自己係邊個。
So every human being wants a good situation.
所有人呢，都希望有好嘅處境。
You, me, every human being.
你同我所有嘅人都有呢個咁嘅希望。
And we do many, many, many things in our life to create this good situation.
我哋喺生命裏面做盡所有嘅一切，希望帶嚟一個好嘅處境。
And we always think if we had a better situation, then we would truly be happy.
我哋成日都有咁諗，就話如果我有一個好啲嘅處境嘅話呢，我就會更加快樂。
And this can take many different forms.
咁要做嘅事情呢，形式呢，有好多唔同嘅形式出現嘅。
Tonight's talk is entitled The Path to Great Investment, right?
咁呢，今晚嘅開示嘅主題呢，就係投資有道。
And human beings are always investing in something.
人呢，成日都係投資喺一啲嘢上面嘅。
And the reason you invest is with the hope that something good will come back.
點解你投資呢？因為你有個希望，希望你嘅投資呢會帶嚟一啲好嘅回報。
So here in Hong Kong, at Subong Zen Monastery, we have several students who are stockbrokers.
咁喺受豐禪院呢，我哋有幾位學生呢，都係有喺投資股票呢個行業裏邊嘅。
Also in the United States,
咁喺
We have many students that are involved in the market, right?
咁美國都係嘅，我哋喺美國嘅禪學生咧，好多個咧都喺投資呢個行業裏邊。
So those people are interested in investing their money so they'll get a return.
咁投資嘅人咧，投資佢個錢就希望得到一啲回報，
It's natural, right?
係非常之自然嘅。
But then what happens?
但係之後結果係點呢？
Many people in the United States found out in 2008 that it didn't work out so well.
咁美國人咧喺2008年咧，終於發現咧，就係佢哋嘅投資最後帶嚟嘅都唔係等於一啲好嘅回報。
Even very smart investment people lost a lot of money very fast.
就算一啲好精明嘅投資者咧，喺好短時間裏面咧，都係失敗嘅投資。
This also is natural.
咁呢一個都係非常之自然。
So no matter what you do to create a good situation for yourself, in the end, it will go away.
無論你點樣盡力為自己創造好嘅處境都好啦，到頭來終有一日都會消失嘅。
So in the end, good education won't protect your good situation.
你就算有好嘅教育，唔代表保證你有好嘅處境。
Having a good house is not going to protect your good situation.
買一層樓，有一個資產，亦都唔代表你一定有好嘅處境。
Having a nice car, nice clothes is not going to protect your situation.
就算有靚車、靚嘅衫、名牌嘅衫，亦都唔代表保證你有好嘅處境。
Even if you're young and very strong and healthy, you can't keep that situation.
就算你而家係年青健康，但係唔代表你永遠都係保持呢個好嘅處境。
So even before his enlightenment, the Buddha perceived that.
佛陀開悟之前，佢已經睇到呢一點。
So the Buddha had a very good situation. Then he sees these three things: old age, sickness, and death.
佛陀開悟之前，佢已經睇到、經歷到，就係睇到老、病、死。
This is a very, very simple kind of wisdom.
其實呢個係一個非常之簡單，內在裡面包含一啲好簡單嘅智慧。
In fact, before you're thinking, you already have this kind of wisdom inside.
其實喺你思維之前呢，呢個原本嘅智慧你已經係有㗎啦。
You and the Buddha are not different in this.
你同埋佛陀喺呢一個層面係無異嘅。
Right? We all see old age, sickness, and death.
我哋每日同佛陀一樣，都係睇到老病死。
And actually, when we see it, we're looking at ourselves.
當我哋睇到嘅時候，我哋點樣面對呢？
That's what the Buddha saw.
我哋睇到同樣嘅嘢，亦都係等於佛陀睇到同樣嘅。
But when he saw it, he gave up all attempts to have a good situation.
當佛陀睇到嘅時候，佢決定放下佢所有好嘅處境。
Rather, he started looking at this basic question: what am I then?
反而佢深深咁樣問呢個問題，就係究竟我是誰呢？
What are we here for?
我哋點解要活喺呢度呢？
So he already understood sex and money.
佛陀明白人呢係有需要性啦，又需要有錢啦。
He understood sleep, food, and fame.
佢明白需要食物啦，需要睡眠啦，亦都有追求名譽啦。
But he knew that he couldn't keep the good situation that he had around these 5 things.
但係佢知道咧，佢係保持唔到，永遠都唔可以係永遠保持呢5樣嘢。
So no matter how much he invested in fame or in money or in being even a good king for his kingdom, he knew that it wasn't going to work.
佢明白咧，就算佢點樣投資喺個名利，或者係佢作為一個國王都好啦，佢投資喺呢一啲上面咧，到頭來咧都係唔可以永遠嘅。
So if you visit Buddhist temples, usually when you go up to the temple, if you've been in China or here, you'll see that there's these sayings on the pillar outside the temple.
咁如果你去
Sayings written
過
on the post.
你去過韓國或者中國嘅寺廟咧，有陣時咧寺廟嘅外邊咧，你會睇到喺個柱嗰度咧刻有一啲詩句嘅。
And one of the most interesting ones, one of these sayings to me is the one that says, 1,000 years of chasing after money and fame goes away in an instant.
其中一句咧就係講千載俗物一朝塵，1000年追逐所有呢啲物質咧，一下子都會消失。
But 3 days of looking into the self is 1,000-year treasure.
第二句咧就係3日修心千載寶，即係3日認真咁樣觀照自己個心，帶來係1000年嘅寶物。
So that's very interesting because this 3 days practicing actually points to what the Buddha did.
好有趣呢一句所講就係3日修心，其實就係等於佛陀當時所做嘅，就係心觀自己。
He went off, he left his situation and started looking into himself.
佢離開佢自己好嘅處境，佢開始就係研究佢自己，心觀佢自己。
And I always thought it was interesting that when he left home, he didn't move to a library.
咁好有趣喎，就係佛陀咧離家出走之後咧，佢冇話走咗一個圖書館。
He visited a couple of teachers, but right away he perceived that they didn't know the answer to this big question.
佢之後咧就尋訪嘅其他嘅名師導師，但係到頭來佢都覺得佢哋都俾唔到呢個答案佢。
So finally he just went and sat underneath a tree.
最後佛陀選擇就係坐喺樹嘅下邊。
That's really simple.
係好簡單，
Just sitting underneath a tree.
就只係坐喺棵樹嘅下邊，
And then looking inside, look inside, look inside, look inside.
心觀自己，內觀自己。
Then, because of his big question
因為佛陀呢個大議程
and his great vow to save all beings from suffering, boom, he got this big enlightenment.
亦都因為佛陀普渡眾生呢個大願，帶嚟佢嘅開悟。
So this is a very interesting kind of investment.
咁呢個呢係一個好有趣，亦都好有意思嘅投資。
Because we would, in the context of this talk, we would call that great investment.
咁呢，我哋講佛陀呢一個呢，就係一個好重嘅投資。
So usually people are looking to what we call outside happiness.
通常呢，人呢係追尋外在嘅快樂，
So they're always investing themselves in their outside situation.
佢哋都會呢係追求呢外在嘅處境。
But the simple truth is that doesn't work because this outside situation is always changing.
但係呢個總係行唔通，因為外在嘅處境不斷在變。
That's what old age, sickness, and death tells us.
老病死已經話到俾我哋聽，一切都在變。
Then there's another kind of investment, and that's the investment that you put into looking inside.
但係仲有一種投資，呢種投資唔係外在，而係內在。
And if you're persistent, then you find what we call inside happiness.
如果你認真咁作呢個內在嘅投資，你就可以揾到內在嘅快樂。
You might call that inside investment.
你可以稱之為呢個係內在嘅投資，
It's not insiders trading, it's actual inside looking.
唔係啲黑幕投資嚇，係內在嘅投資，
Then that has a big result.
帶來呢好大嘅成果。
This saying on the temple pillar says, 1,000-year treasure. Actually, it's much greater than that.
雖然柱上面寫呢首詩話係千載寶，但係我可以話呢個寶簡直係比千載寶更加大。
So the reason that people have so much trouble hearing what the Buddha said is because they think that by satisfying their desires, they will be relieved from suffering.
人點解係聽唔到佛陀嘅教法呢？因為佢哋以為如果滿足到呢啲外在嘅慾望，佢哋就會快樂。
But the Buddha discovered that actually just the opposite kind of investment is needed to get true happiness.
但係佛陀嘅發現就係、反而唔係呢個外在嘅投資，而係內在嘅投資帶嚟我哋真正嘅快樂。
That's inside happiness.
呢個係我哋內在嘅快樂。
And that comes from finding your true self.
呢個係嚟自你追尋你自己嘅自性。
So this true self is actually the real goods.
自性只係真正嘅寶。
So every religion talks about us being separate from something.
每一個宗教咧都有講就係、我哋同其他嘅一切都係分開嘅。
Technically, this is known as alienation.
咁可以話用異化呢個字代表，亦都係代表分隔。
So Middle Eastern religions, as you know, focus on God.
中東嘅宗教咧，佢亦都係好着重神嘅存在。
And the kind of alienation that you experience there is called alienation from God. You're separated from God.
其實當講有神嘅存在嘅時候咧，亦都係等於呢個異化同埋分離嘅存在。你同神係異化同埋分隔嘅。
And the problem that human beings have is that they are separated from God, and their job is to become one with God.
咁人嘅問題呢，就係我哋係同神有分隔，所以我哋要追尋嘅就係與神合一。
So, in Middle Eastern religions, originally we lived inside of a garden. It was called the Garden of Eden.
嚟自中東嘅宗教有講就係、所有人其實都係嚟自伊甸園嘅個源頭嘅原始。
And there, human beings didn't suffer.
喺伊甸園係唔會有苦嘅，
They had a very good time, very relaxing.
非常之好嘅，完全冇苦，非常之自由自在，
No problem.
完全冇問題嘅。
冇問題. But then they made a slight mistake.
但係佢哋做咗一個錯誤。
Human beings are great at making a little mistake that has a big result.
人好叻嘅，成日都做一啲細嘅錯誤呢，帶來一啲好嚴重嘅後果。
They did something that God said they shouldn't do.
佢哋做咗一啲神話佢哋唔可以做嘅事，
And when they did it, God kicked them out of the Garden of Eden.
因為佢哋做咗，因為佢哋犯錯，所以神驅逐佢哋離開伊甸園。
And now we spent the last 6,000 years trying to get back into the Garden of Eden.
咁我哋呢，花咗6000年嘅時間呢，希望可以重返伊甸園。
But Eastern religions are a little bit different than that.
但係喺西方嘅宗教呢，同由中東開始嘅宗教呢，係有少少唔同嘅。
Because Eastern religions focus on a true self.
東方嘅宗教呢，係着重自己人嘅本性、人嘅自性。
One good way to think of them is that they are true nature religions.
呢個係關於自性嘅宗教。
So like Buddha teaches that we have a true nature. We don't know that. That's just what the Buddha said. Because of that, we suffer.
佛教有講，我哋原本就有呢個本性、呢個佛性，但係因為我哋唔知道，所以我哋受苦。
So because of that, we are separated from ourselves.
因此呢，呢個受苦呢，係嚟自我哋同我哋嘅本性嘅分離。
So the alienation isn't from something outside like a god or something. The alienation is from our true self.
呢個分離，呢個異化呢，唔係話同外在一個神嘅分隔，而係同我哋原本嘅本性嘅分隔。
So the big question is, how do we get back to what we originally are?
所以個大議程就係我哋點樣去返同我哋個自己嘅本性合一呢？
It's almost the same as Middle Eastern religions, which talk about how do we get back into the Garden of Eden.
就好似中東呢個宗教咁樣啦，就係我哋點樣回歸同神合一呢？
So all of Zen style teaching originates with the sixth patriarch Wei Nung in China in the 8th century.
禪宗呢係源自六祖慧能嘅教法嘅。
And he's very famous for getting enlightenment when he heard just one line out of the Diamond Sutra.
六祖慧能呢，只係聽到《金剛經》裡面嘅一句就已經開悟啦。
And this one line contains the secret of true investment, great investment.
咁《金剛經》呢一句呢，已經包含咗呢個投資裡面最重要嘅元素。
So this line says,
呢一句就係咁講啦。
when thinking arises in your mind, do not attach to it.
應無所住而生其心，就係呢一句，
No, very simple.
係非常之簡單。當我哋有思維出現嘅時候，我哋唔好執着於佢。
Right? This sixth patriarch had a very simple mind.
六祖呢係有一個好簡單嘅心。
First of all, he was not educated. He had no education.
六祖呢，佢係唔識字嘅，從未受過教育。
Secondly, he had a very low job. He was a woodcutter.
咁佢個工作呢係一啲好低下層嘅工作，佢只係一個斬柴嘅人，一個樵夫。
Third thing was he was a barbarian from Guangdong province.
仲差啲呢，就係第三點呢，就係佢嚟自廣東嘅野蠻人。
You know, that's really bad.
咁低下層之中嘅低下層啦。
And still, he heard this one line, then got this big enlightenment.
但係六祖只係聽到一句，當下佢就開悟見性。
So actually, he's kind of like a mirror image of the Buddha. You know, the Buddha is well educated from a rich family, and he's very poor and not educated.
咁呢一點好有趣喎。慧能呢係冇受教育啦，亦都係喺低下層啦，但係同佛陀呢係完全相反嘅。佛陀嚟自一個非常之好嘅背景，亦都係受咗非常之高嘅教育，所以就兩者呢好似係完全相反咁樣。
Buddha comes from a high-class family, a warrior class. He's Kshatriya, and he's a prince and going to be a king.
佛陀呢係嚟自一個貴族嘅家庭，當時佢係一個王子，將會呢去成為呢個國家嘅國王。
The sixth patriarch comes from a low-class family and is from the south.
咁六祖呢嚟自一個窮苦人家，而且係嚟自南方添。
Still, this big enlightenment appears.
但係同樣都係開悟見性。
So the point of this is that everybody has it.
其實呢一點講出呢，係人人都具足，人人都有嘅。
Everybody already has this original nature, but human beings don't know it, so they suffer.
人人都有呢個本性，但係因為人睇唔到、唔明白，所以我哋受苦。
So Western philosophy is all based on this one Greek philosopher called Socrates.
西方嘅哲學呢，源於呢一個好出名嘅哲學家蘇格拉底。
He also was a searcher after truth.
佢都係一個追尋真理嘅人。
So he would go around Athens of his time, which is about the time of the Buddha, and he would always ask people, do you understand yourself?
當時呢，佢喺雅典個城市裏面呢，佢周圍咁去都係問其他人同樣一個問題，就係你明唔明白你自己呢？
So he was a teacher. He had many students. He was always asking them, do you understand yourself? Do you understand yourself?
佢當時係一個 老師嚟嘅，佢問所有人，又問佢啲學生就係、你究竟明唔明白你自己呢？
Then one time he met a student, and this student was really strong.
咁有一次呢，佢遇到一個學生呢，呢、個學生呢就有所反擊啦。
And when Socrates asked him, "Do you understand yourself?" immediately this student asked right back, "Do you understand yourself?"
咁咧，佢問呢個學生，呢、個學生咧即刻就再反問佢喎。咁你又明唔明白你自己呢？
This is a good kind of student.
呢啲係好學生嚟㗎，
Has some bone.
係有啲勇氣啊！反問佢個老師。
Then Socrates said something very interesting.
咁蘇格拉底講咗一啲非常之有意思嘅説話。
And in fact, this statement, just like the Buddha's statement after his enlightenment, is the basis of his whole philosophy.
佢講出呢句説話呢，都係基於呢佢自己都係基於佢自己嘅哲學觀嘅。
Socrates said, "No, I don't understand myself."
蘇格拉底答：唔知，我唔明白自己。
But I understand this don't know very, very well.
但係我非常之明白呢個唔知。
That's very interesting because all of Western philosophy is based on don't know.
非常之有趣啊！西方嘅哲學原來基於就係呢個不知。
No, 我唔知道。
我唔知道。
That means what you think about Buddhism or human beings is much simpler than you're thinking.
意思呢就係你所認識嘅你同埋佛教呢，其實比你所諗呢係簡單得多嘅。
So today I was kind of paging through the Diamond Sutra, which I do every once in a while.
咁今日呢，我都翻開《金剛經》嚟睇一睇。
And one place the Buddha says, "Oh, I never teach about Buddhism."
其中一句佛陀講就係喺《金剛經》裏面有講就係、我從冇説法。
What? The Buddha never taught Buddhism?
嚇？呢句點解咁講呢？我從未説法，冇教過一個佛法。
In fact, he said, "In my whole life, I didn't even say one word. Not one word."
經裏面仲有一句就係話，佛陀講：我從冇説過一句話。
That's very interesting.
非常之有趣，
This is the same mind as Socrates.
同蘇格拉底嘅心係一樣嘅心。
So what these kinds of dialogues point to is your true self.
其實呢啲所講嘅對話呢，都係同樣指向一點，就係、你嘅自性。
In fact, all of the sutras are not designed to give you some kind of understanding.
其實所有佛經呢，都唔係為咗令你明白一啲嘢，
They're actually designed to take away your understanding because their intention is to point to your true self.
佢哋嘅作用呢，啱啱相反，就係、想拎走所有你嘅明白、你嘅見解，可以直指你嘅本性。
So human beings are always very attached to some kind of understanding.
人往往都係非常之執着自己嘅一啲諗法，自己明白嘅嘢。
I understand about the stock market. I understand about human beings. I understand about marriage. I understand about philosophy.
我明白嘅投資呢個市場，我明白婚姻係咩嘢，我亦都明白。對於好多嘢我都係明㗎啦，我都知㗎啦。
But the Buddha only taught about don't know.
但係佛陀講啱啱相反，就係、不知。
So here's the interesting part about this don't know.
咁嚟到有趣嘅地方啦，關於呢個不知，
Don't know is just a name.
其實不知只係一個名，
That means don't know is not don't know.
其實不知唔係不知，
Don't know is a name for your true self.
不知係你自性嘅名稱。
But this true self has many, 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 many names.
但係呢個自性、呢個本性有好多好多好多好多好多唔同嘅名稱。
In fact, I think human beings have given true self, Buddha nature, more names than they've given to anything else.
咁我諗人呢發明名稱呢，比自性呢實在非常之多。
So some people say that your true self is your Buddha nature.
有人稱你個本性為你嘅佛性，
Some people call it your original nature.
有人話係你嘅本性，
Some people call it Buddha.
有人稱之為佛，
Some people call it nirvana.
有人稱之為涅槃，
Some people call it enlightenment.
有人稱之為開悟，
Some people call it God.
有人稱之為神，
Some people call it Allah.
有人稱之為阿拉，
Some people call it Tao.
有人稱之為道。
Right? Taoists like to call it Tao.
道家呢就有呢個名稱，
Some people call it everything.
有人稱之為一切，
Some people call it nothing.
有人稱之為
Buddhists like to
無。
call it shunyata, nothing.
咁喺佛教呢，有稱之為空，
But true original nature is before thinking.
但係真正嘅本性係喺我哋思維之前。
Before thinking, there's no words, no name, and no speech.
思維之前係無名、無言語，亦都無相，
Because it's before thinking.
因為佢係喺思維之前。
So, actually, if you open your mouth about Buddha nature, already you've made a mistake.
所以當你開口講咩係佛性呢，你已經係犯咗個錯啦。
So tonight, by talking to you, I've made many, many, many mistakes.
今日個開始呢，我係犯咗好多個錯。
In fact, in Zen, we say, if you open your mouth, that's already a mistake.
喺禪中有講開口即錯，
That doesn't mean you shouldn't open your mouth. It just means you should be clear about why you're opening your mouth.
意思唔係話你從不開口，而係你要清楚點解你要開口。
Because usually when you open your mouth, you're confirming your sense of self.
因為每次你開你個口呢，其實都係喺度肯定緊自己。
And the way you confirm your sense of self is by confirming your likes and your dislikes.
點樣肯定你自己呢？就係肯定你自己嘅中意同埋唔中意。
So when you start talking to somebody else about yourself, what do you talk about? You talk about the things you like and the things you don't like, right?
當你介紹你自己俾人哋認識嘅時候，你通常點介紹呢？你會介紹我中意啲乜嘢啦，我唔中意啲乜嘢啦，咁樣嚟介紹你自己。
And your friends are the people who like the things you like, and don't like the things that you don't like, and your enemies are the people who like things you don't like, and don't like things that you like.
咩為之朋友呢？朋友就係佢哋中意你中意嘅嘢，佢哋唔中意你唔中意嘅嘢。咩為之你嘅敵人呢？就係中意你唔中意嘅嘢，唔中意你中意嘅嘢，呢啲就係你嘅敵人啦。
Kind of complicated, but simple.
好似好複雜，但其實好簡單。
On Facebook, you see it all the time, right?
你上 Facebook 你就睇到啦，成日都會睇到嘅。
And 99.9% of all Twitters are about this.
99.9% 呢 Twitter 呢都係關於呢一樣嘢。
But the Buddha called that our dream.
但係佛陀俾佢一個名稱，就係呢啲都係夢嚟嘅。
Right? Every human being lives inside of a like and dislike dream.
所有人都會活喺一個中意同埋唔中意嘅夢裏邊。
So one of the most common metaphors for what it means to find your true self is a dream, waking up from a dream.
開悟呢有一個比喻呢，就係話我哋從我哋個夢裏面醒覺起嚟。
And the reason it's such a common metaphor is because it's something that applies to every human being.
點解係一個咁普遍嘅比喻呢？因為人人都受用嘅。
Remember, the Buddha's teaching apply to you.
佛陀嘅教法係對你係有幫助嘅。
And when the Buddha talks about anything, he's actually talking about you. So everything that applied to him applies to you.
佛陀所講嘅一切法係關於你，佢所講關於自己，其實都係關於你。
So one time, a monk went to the Buddha and said, Buddha, your teaching is kind of complicated. Could you kind of like squeeze it down a little bit so I could understand?
咁佛在世嘅時候呢，有一個出家人呢，就係問佛陀，佢話：佛陀，你個教法實在係太深啦，可唔可以將佢調教低層次少少，讓我哋明白呢？
And the Buddha said, yeah, I can say it in just one sentence.
咁佛陀話：好，我就用一句講晒啦。
Then this monk was very happy. Wow, just one sentence?
咁呢個出家人非常高興啦嚇，所有教法係一句可以講晒。
Yeah. The Buddha said, yes, and here's the sentence.
佛陀話係可以一句講晒，
Don't attach to anything.
唔好執着一切。
So that's the same sentence that the sixth patriarch heard from the Diamond Sutra and got enlightenment.
亦都係同六祖從《金剛經》裏面所聽到嗰一句係一樣嘅。
So the path to this great investment is very, very simple.
其實呢，呢條投資之道呢係非常之簡單。
It means don't attach to any thinking that arises in your mind.
嘅意思就係、任何我哋個思維出現嘅諗法，我哋都唔好執着佢。
Unfortunately, hearing that is not necessarily going to help you.
但係可惜，只係聽呢句，唔係真係會幫到你。
So most human beings, just like the Buddha, have to do some practicing.
人就好似佛陀咁，就算聽到呢句之後，都要做下一啲功夫嘅。
In fact, that's the way to wake up from the dream.
呢個只係步向開悟係醒覺嘅唯一嘅方法。
Because waking up, getting enlightenment, is just exactly like waking up from the dream that we all experience at night.
其實開悟從開悟醒覺，同我哋喺個夢中醒覺一樣，都係一樣。
So every human being here, no matter what your idea or what your religion or your politics, has experienced waking up from a dream.
就
Right?
算你係在座咧，各位咧，你哋唔同嘅政治背景啊，唔同嘅家庭背景啊，你哋來自各行各業都好咧，大家都有個同樣嘅體驗嘅，就係喺個夢裏面醒嚟嘅體驗。
That's why it's used as a metaphor to explain what the Buddha is talking about.
因此咧，用呢個人人都有個呢個體驗嚟作為呢個比喻咧，係大家都可以明白得到嘅。
And it's particularly clear when it's a bad dream.
尤其是更加明白咧，就係嗰個係一個噩夢啦。
So you're laying in your bed and a bad person is chasing you down the street. Maybe he's going to shoot you with a gun. Right?
咁啊，你咧發夢啦，瞓喺張床度啦，但喺夢裏面呢，有個壞人呢追住你，用槍喺後邊追住你。
Or you're sitting in the plane and suddenly the plane takes a dive and starts heading straight for the ground. Oh.
或者咧，你發夢咧，你坐緊飛機，呢個飛機咧就嚟墜機啦，已經係向下面跌落去啦。
Or you're running down a path and suddenly you come right to the edge of a cliff, but you can't stop.
又或者咧，發夢咧，自己喺個夢裏面跑到去有一點咧，就係一個懸崖嚟嘅，但係你見到嘅時候太遲啦，你都停唔到。
Then the dream is so bad that it wakes you up. Right?
個夢實在太恐怖啦！喺呢個最恐怖嘅時刻嘅時候，
So everybody has that experience.
喺呢個最恐怖嘅時候呢，醒起嚟，大家都曾經有過咁嘅體驗。
Right? Everybody has their own direct experience.
每一個人都有過呢個咁直接親身嘅體驗。
So you wake up and your heart is beating boom, 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 boom.
記唔記得？當你醒翻起嚟嘅時候呢，你個心呢仲喺度卜卜卜卜咁樣跳。
And your adrenal glands are producing adrenaline and it's pumping all through your body.
咁你身體上面呢，好多刺激度呢，係不斷咁樣喺度活動緊。
And you're sweating.
唔單止啊，仲係不斷咁喺度流汗添。
But you wake up and oh, that was just a dream.
當你醒嘅時候呢，嗰下呢，就係話嗰個係只係一個夢。
I'm just laying here in my bed.
我 我原來仲係瞓喺張床度。
Everybody has a direct experience of that.
每個人都曾經有過呢個親身嘅體驗，
Very interesting.
非常之有意思、有趣。
Actually, this sleeping dream isn't such a problem. The problem is with our awake dream.
其實發夢嘅唔係最大嘅問題啊，而係醒緊嗰陣時仲繼續發夢，只係個問題。
Because every human being walks around with a wide awake dream going on in their mind.
因為咧人每日生活咧仲係帶住呢個夢境喺度活每一日。
And there's many, many, many different kinds of these dreams.
同埋咧帶住咧係好多好多唔同嘅夢。
Where I come from, I'm very familiar with what I call the United States dream.
咁我嚟自個地方咧就係、我帶住一個咩夢咧？就係、一個美國嘅夢。
And if you've ever been there, you know there's many different styles of this dream.
咁如果你去過美國咧，你都會知道呢個夢咧都有好多唔同嘅形式嘅。
Also, there's a Chinese dream, a Hong Kong dream, a Russian dream, a Canadian dream.
仲有中國夢啦、香港夢啦、蘇聯夢啦、加拿大夢啦。
I just came from Singapore. Most of them live in a Singapore dream.
咁啱啱咧就係新加坡飛過嚟嗰度嘅人咧有一個夢叫做新加坡夢。
Then there's a rich person's dream and a poor person's dream.
有錢人嘅夢、窮人嘅夢。
There's a well-educated dream. There's a not-so-well-educated dream.
受高等教育嘅人嘅夢，冇受教育嘅人嘅夢。
There's a monk dream and a nun dream.
比丘嚟嘅夢。
There's a man dream and a woman dream.
男人嘅夢，女人嘅夢。
There's many, many different kinds of dreams.
好多好多好多唔同嘅夢。
And they tend to have a very strong hold on us. You know, we're very attached to them.
咁其實呢啲咁嘅夢都有同一點，就係人非常之執着佢自己嘅夢。
So the extraordinary thing about the Buddha is that he was able to let go of his dream.
佛陀最大嘅成就呢，就係佢可以放下佢自己嘅夢。
The sixth patriarch too.
六祖都係一樣。
And that's also our job.
呢個亦都係我哋嘅職責。
Our job is the same as the Buddha's.
我哋嘅職責同佛陀嘅職責係一樣。
So my teacher Zen Master Sung Sung was always saying, Buddha came 500 years ago. How's he doing today?
我嘅老師崇山禪師成日都有講呢一句，佢話佛陀2500年前嚟到人間，究竟今日佢又做成點呢？
Right? He came to save all beings from suffering. How's he doing?
佛陀當時話要普渡眾生，但係佢想做嘅，今日又睇下佢做成點。
Then he said, Jesus came 2,000 years ago. How's he doing?
咁佢都再講就話耶穌2000年前嚟到人間，今時今日佢又做成點呢？
Jesus came to save all beings from sin. How's he doing?
耶穌落到嚟係救贖世人嘅罪，今時今日佢又做成點呢？
So what that means is we all have a big job.
嘅意思就係我哋每一個人都係有好重要嘅工作要做。
Because our job is the same as the Buddha.
因為我哋嘅工作同佛陀嘅工作係一樣。
If everything about the Buddha is also true of us, then our job is also the same.
佛陀所做嘅對我哋嚟講都係一樣。
So Zen means find your true self and help the world.
禪就係揾到你嘅自性，幫助呢個世界，
Very, very simple.
係非常之簡單。
And the reason we have that job is because there's still so much suffering.
點解我哋仲要繼續呢個工作呢？因為仍然呢個世上有好多嘅苦。
Another thing my teacher Zen Master Sung San would sometimes say is that If Buddha would get enlightenment today, it would be a different kind of enlightenment.
咁崇山禪師呢，佢亦都有咁講過喎。佢話啊，如果佛陀係喺而家開悟嘅話呢，佢個開悟可能同嗰時係有啲唔同噶啦。
So we all know when Buddha got enlightenment, he saw the star and then the big enlightenment.
大家都聽過呢個故事，就係佛陀見到一粒明星而開悟。
So we call that star enlightenment.
咁我哋呢稱之為呢見到星嘅開悟啦。
So he said, if Buddha got enlightenment today, it would be different.
崇山禪師講呢，如果佛陀今時今日開悟嘅話呢，我諗佢嘅開悟唔會一樣。
If he got enlightenment today, it would be tear enlightenment.
如果今日嘅開悟呢，呢個係一個淚水嘅開悟。
That's the tear from seeing the suffering of the world.
呢個淚水係嚟自睇到呢個世間所受嘅苦。
So all of us are born into an ocean of suffering.
我哋出生就係喺呢個苦海之中。
Now that sounds like a big concept, but actually it's very down to earth and lives inside of our guts.
講起嚟呢，好似離我哋好遠，但係實實在在就係喺我哋每一個人嘅心中。
Because suffering is not an abstract philosophical principle.
因為苦唔係一啲虛無嘅名稱，一啲概念。
It's something that we see in our family and our friends.
係可以喺我哋自己個家人啦，喺朋友嗰度都可以睇到。
It's something that we see in the newspapers and all the people that we share our city with or our country.
每日我哋喺報紙睇到，我哋周圍相處嘅人，我哋呢個城市、呢個國家，我哋都可以睇到。
And it's something that we see inside of ourselves.
亦都係睇喺我哋內在，我哋完全明白到，完全嘅感受到。
So perceiving that suffering the way the Buddha did and seeing it inside of ourselves, that's our job.
觀照到內在呢個苦，就好似佛陀一樣，呢個就係我哋嘅職責。
That suffering actually points the way towards great investment.
呢個苦，明白呢個苦就係指向我哋最重要嘅投資嘅方向。
This investment is into finding our true selves and helping alleviate this suffering.
呢個投資就係正入自己個本性，可以幫助其他嘅眾生可以離苦。
And to do that, you have to let go of every idea you have.
要做到呢一點嘅話，我哋要放下我哋所有嘅諗法。
Then it's possible to find your true self and help those around you.
只有呢個放下，至可以真真正正讓我哋揾翻自己嘅本性，至可以真真正正咁幫助一切嘅眾生。
That's what we call the great Bodhisattva way.
呢個我哋稱之為菩薩道。
That's the Buddha's job.
呢個係佛陀嘅職責。
That's Jesus' job.
呢個係耶穌嘅職責。
That's your job.
呢個係你嘅職責。
It's also my job.
亦都係我嘅職責。
Everything else leads to more suffering.
一切都係指向步向更多嘅苦。
So I hope that you and I together can wake up from our dream and help this world, because it certainly needs it.
我希望你我都可以從呢個夢中醒覺，幫助呢個世界，因為呢個真真正正就係呢個世界所需要嘅。
So thank you for listening.
多謝大家嘅聆聽。
多謝禪師。
Thank you, Zen Master.
好啦，而家到咗答問時間啦。咁大家有冇咩問題咧，就可以舉手。咁我哋嘅義工會交咪俾你，或者你想寫低都可以嘅。咁你哋而家有冇咧？
So now we have a question and answer session. Do you have any questions? If you do, please raise your hand or pass the paper to. We will have staff volunteers to come and pick up the question.
好似已經有喎。
Since we already have some questions.
Any kind of...
So we already have one question here.
Okay.
Yes. So it says, some people say when we give money to others, such as donation, then we will receive more money in terms of the law of karma. So is it true? 咁有人話咧，當我哋即係捐獻啦，我哋俾錢其他人啦，做善事啊，我哋捐嘅錢咧，之後咧，我哋捐得多咧，亦都會得多嘅。呢個係業力嘅所講嘅。咁係咪真係真嘅咧？
So why give money?
個問題就係點解你要俾錢人哋咧？
And why do you want money?
同埋點解你需要錢呢？
So the Buddha's answer to that question is very, very, very simple.
佛陀嘅答案係非常之簡單。
If you give money because you want something yourself, then even if you do get it, that will lead to suffering.
如果你嘅捐獻呢係為咗你自己嘅話呢，其實到頭來為咗你自己呢個原動力呢，都係帶來你自己嘅痛苦。
So very important is how you lead your life, moment to moment to moment to moment.
最重要呢，就係你每一刻、每一刻、每一刻點樣活出你自己嘅生命。
And the reason behind what you do, moment to moment to moment, should be clear.
同埋你每一刻、每一刻、每一刻活在背後嘅意圖呢，係需要係好清楚嘅。
Actually, one moment of I, my, me, and you're in hell.
有一刻係有我所我擁有我嘅執着嘅話呢，嗰一刻你已經喺地獄啦。
One moment of not for I, my, me, then you get the result of this big investment.
嗰一刻嘅意圖完全唔係為咗你自己嘅，唔係為咗你追求得到任何嘢嘅話，呢一個已經係一個非常之好嘅投資啦。
So it's very important to be clear about why you do anything in your life.
所以好重要就係你生命裏面做嘅每一樣事情背後嘅意圖係咩嘢呢？
So maybe you give money to some good cause.
咁可能呢，你話啊，我捐錢啊，俾其他人啊，做善事啊。
And you don't get anything in return.
咁可能捐完之後呢，你一無所得。
That happens.
有時係會咁嘅。
Sometimes you give something to good cause and you get something in return. That happens.
有陣時呢，你好心啦，做善事啦，捐款啦，之後你捐咗款之後呢，啊，真係有啲好嘅回報喎。
Actually, both are the same because the important thing is give.
其實兩者係不易嘅，因為最重要就係你願意付出。
And if the intention is clear, then that's true giving.
如果你嘅意圖係清晰嘅話呢，呢個只係真正嘅付出，真正嘅布施。
So in the Diamond Sutra it says that there's no giver, no gift, and no receiver.
金剛經呢亦都有講，就係冇付出者，亦都冇接受付出嘅人，兩者都唔存在。
So that's true giving.
喺兩者都唔存在嘅時候呢，呢個只係真正嘅布施。
That means just do it.
嘅意思就係只係去做。
Then that's a clear intention because it's not for me.
呢個只係清楚嘅意圖，因為呢個意圖唔係為咗自己。
This, you know, the Nike shoe ad. It's very interesting.
咁大家都知道 Nike 呢個運動牌子啦。
Because the Nike shoe ad says, just do it.
Nike 咧都有一句名言嘅，就係話只係去做。
So anytime you just do it, there's no inside and no outside.
當你只係去做嘅時候，嗰刻係冇外邊，亦都冇裏邊。
There's no you and there's no me.
係冇你，亦都冇我。
There's no giver and there's no gift.
冇付出者，亦都冇被接受付出嘅人。
There's no subject and there's no object.
冇主體，亦都冇副體。
There's just do it.
就只係去做。
Then behind that is very clear. There's no I, my, me. So just do it.
背後係冇我嘅執着，我嘅處境，只係去做啫。
if you expect anything in return, already that's suffering.
如果你期待有回報嘅話，呢、個就已經係受苦啦。
So try that.
咁啊，試下啦，大家。Okay, these two questions similar, so I share together. Question is how to know is this my thinking or is this my wisdom? So how to tell this is my thinking or this is my wisdom? And the second question is 雖然知道唔應該執着思維，但係同一個思維時常都會出現喺腦海，咁我點樣去處理呢？ So the second question is also about thinking. Even I know I shouldn't be attached to my thinking, but there is one thinking, the same thinking, always appear. And how should I deal with this kind of always repeating thinking?
Both of those questions have the word in them, I and my.
咁兩個問題裏面呢，都有同樣嘅字呢，就係有個我同埋我嘅。
I am thinking something, and how will I know that my thinking is not my wisdom?
咁我諗緊嘢，咁我諗嗰啲諗法，我又點知道我依個諗法係咪我依個智慧呢？
This is like putting socks on the feet, on the legs of a snake.
咁樣問呢，就等於你同條蛇着襪。
So if you've ever tried to put socks on the feet, on the legs of a snake, you know, it doesn't work out very well.
咁如果大家真係試下同一條蛇着襪嘅話，都幾難做到嘅。
So again, only your own experience can tell you this. But I, my, me is not going to be part of this experience, guaranteed.
只有你自己嘅體驗，只可以為你解答呢個問題。但係如果你有我所我執嘅話呢，保證你係得唔到呢個答案。
So human beings are always putting legs on the snake.
但係人呢，就最中意呢，就係幫蛇着襪。
That's why they suffer.
咁所以人咪受苦咯。
So this kind of question is I'm checking my mind kind of dream.
咁呢一個問題呢，都係一個夢嚟嘅。呢個係一個咩夢呢？就係我喺度審察緊我個心嘅夢。
Right? It's a thinking question.
呢個呢，亦都係一個思維嘅問題。
So take away that thinking, then those two questions disappear, then you'll be completely relaxed.
咁如果拎走呢個思維嘅話呢，咁你就係完全嘅自在啦。
That means the question won't disappear, it just means you won't be attached to it. That's all.
咁嘅意思即係話呢，當你拎走你嘅思維嘅時候呢，呢個問題呢，關於你嘅思維呢個問題呢，亦都唔會存在啦。
Everybody wants some description of the true self.
咁人人呢都想關於自性講多啲關於自性啊。
But the true self is infinite in space and time. So how do you describe something that's infinite in space and time?
但係自性係無限嘅時間、無限嘅空間、超越時空嘅，你又點可以形容一樣超越時空嘅嘢，用文字去到形容佢呢？ There's one question from a child.
Uh-oh, these are the tough ones.
艱難呢個問題。點解呢個世界有生物？呢個係黃信文問。So this question from a child, she asked, how come this world has living beings?
How come?
How come? Why? Why? Oh.
Yeah, the reason we have living beings is so that we can help the world's suffering.
點解我哋呢個世界要有生物呢？因為我哋需要幫助呢個痛苦嘅世界。
So without us coming into this really bad situation, who's going to help all of these people?
咁你諗下啦，我哋嚟到呢個咁艱難嘅處境咧，有咁多嘅生物都喺艱難嘅處境，咁有邊個嚟到幫佢哋呢？
So actually, we're born here to find our true self and help the world. That's what we're here for.
其實我哋出生喺呢度嘅目的就係我哋要嚟揾翻我哋嘅本性，而救度幫助呢個世界，就係咁簡單。
But as you know, this living beings is just a name.
但係其實生物呢個眾生呢個名咧，都係只係一個名。
So most people are just corpses walking around, kind of like zombies.
咁好多人呢，其實就係行屍走肉行緊，不過其實都係一個死人。
Living in a dream.
因為係活喺一個夢裏邊。
So true living being means wake up.
其實真正嘅生物，真正活生生嘅，就只係有醒覺。
So that's what the Buddha teaches we're here for.
而呢個亦都係佛陀所教嘅，我哋點解要存在嘅目
We're here
的。
to make a great investment, not a small investment.
我哋嚟到就已經係作咗一個好大嘅投資，好重要嘅投資。
That's a living being.
呢個只係真正生物活生生嘅意思。This question is about Diamond Sutra. In Diamond Sutra, it says that not be attached to anything arise from the mind, and not stick to it, and not be attached. And 哇，不如我讀個中文先，等你幫下我點譯。Sorry, I go to Chinese first. 應無所住而生其心，而不黏滯，不執着後而能生其心。好似《金剛經》冇咁講，不過呢句係咁講。請問是否要無所住才能生其心？第二個問題，而此心為何心？So the question is like this: not be attached to anything arise from the mind, not stick to it, and after not being attached, then the mind appears. It says the mind appears, and what I want to ask is does it mean that if I'm not attached, then this mind will appear? And what kind of mind is this mind? Because in Chinese it says like 生其心, the mind appears. When you are not attached, then the mind appears. That's how he understands. The birth of the mind appears. Yeah.
Now I have a headache.
師父話佢開始頭痛啦。
So it's kind of late at night and many people are sleepy. So I'll give you some instruction about how to realize your true mind. Okay?
咁啦，今晚大家而家好夜啦，大家都有少少眼瞓啦。我俾大家一啲好簡單嘅。
That's how to do it.
頭先
I'll tell you a little secret about Buddhism. Thinking is not going to help you.
頭先我已經同大家分享咗咧佛法嘅秘密，最深嘅秘密咧就係你嘅思維咧係幫唔到你嘅。
If thinking would help you, we'd just pass out a pamphlet tonight with some good thinking written in it, and everybody'd be okay.
咁如果咧你嘅思維係幫到你嘅話，今日好簡單㗎。今日嘅開始咧，我哋寫低你要做啲咩嘢啊，咁樣點樣思維啊。如果真係咁樣幫到你咧，我哋會咁做嘅。
Any other questions?
Yes, there's one more question. 何一面放下，放又保持實。一團乜嘢？何 如何一方面可以放下執着，但係另外一方面又要保持心中嗰一團火，關心我哋個社會，改善我哋嘅身處嘅社會。To change and improve things that are not going the right way. The question is, how can I do? On one hand, to let go and not be attached, but at the same time, I can keep this fire in my heart, this passion, this fire in my heart, this fire that is to care for our society, to change and improve our situation, to change and improve things that are not going the right way. For example, like injustice.
Yeah, so everybody wants things to be better.
所有人呢都希望一切可以改善嘅。
You want a better society with more justice.
你想一個更加好嘅社會，有更加多嘅公義。
You want everything to be better. Then the question is, how do you do that?
你想一切都可以有改善，個問題就係你點樣至可以做到呢？
Also, the Buddha wanted things better for human beings.
其實佛陀都係一樣喎，佢都係想為眾生係帶來嘅更多嘅改善。
Then how to do that?
但係佢點做呢？
You know, all of those things are good.
其實你所講嘅都係好嘅。
So what you should do is just do them.
其實只係要做，你要做嘅就只係要做。
100%.
100%咁去做。
Because nobody can do those things for you.
因為冇人可以替你做。
Even the Buddha said, I can't do it for you.
佛陀亦都有講過，就係我都唔可以替你做。
So you have to do that.
所以你自己要親自做。
That's the Nike shoe ad message. Just do it.
呢個亦都係 Nike 嗰句，只係去做。
And then be very clear about your intention.
咁同時咧非常之清楚自己嘅意圖。
Then it'll have some result.
之後咧就會有一啲成果出現。
But you have to do it.
但係最重要嘅，你係要去做。
In fact, in life, the finger is always pointing at you.
其實生命裏面係咪成日都睇到就係嗰隻手指咧，其實都係指向你自己。
So why do you do what you do moment to moment? If that's clear, then that's the Buddha way.
如果每一刻你都好清楚自己點解去做所有嘅行動嘅意圖嘅話咧，呢個就已經係佛陀嘅路。
So do it.
所以就只係去做。This friend says, Chinese first. 每一個人嘅痛苦咧都係自己製造嘅，身邊嘅人受苦咧，自己亦都唔好受。就算自己係好睇得開，但係都無法令到身邊想唔開嘅人快樂。咁可以點做呢？因為其實佢冇問題㗎，只係句子嚟。不過我加多即係最後一句。咁點樣做呢？咁呢位this friend says, all our suffering is created by ourselves, and when there are people around us who are suffering, we are also not happy. When people around us are in suffering, even though I can let go, but I cannot make people around me who are suffering, who are not happy, to be happy. So what can I do?
Yeah, that's true because you think you're different than them.
係啊，如果你覺得你同你周圍嘅人係唔同嘅話咧，你係幫唔到佢。
So the suffering of people is actually the mother of Buddha.
其實一切嘅苦都係佛嘅母親。
Buddha doesn't have I, my, me, and you.
佛陀係冇我 同埋你。
So the great Bodhisattva vow says that when every sentient being is free from suffering, then I will enter nirvana.
咁地藏菩薩有講地獄不空，誓不成佛，即係話如果所有個眾生未被救度嘅話，我都唔會進入涅槃。
That's why it's called the great vow.
所以咧，被稱之為咧係一個大願。
This great is infinite in space and time.
呢個大願咧係超越時空。
So that's our job.
呢個亦都係我哋嘅職責。
多謝。
多謝。
好啦，跟住我哋請我哋秀峰禪院嘅住持我哋嘅大觀禪師上嚟為我哋做總結。
Now is the time that we invite Day Kwang Zen Master, the abbot of Zubon Zen Monasteries, to come up to give closing remarks.
其實今日嘅closing remark 即係我總結語咧，只係一個字。
So the closing remark has only one word.
但係呢個字我要需要大家一齊同我做嘅。
But I would like you to do it with me.
大家一齊，再嚟多一次，一、二、三，一切有為法，如夢幻泡影，如露亦如電，應作如是觀。咁我希望大家嚟到咧，得到一個非常好嘅投資，亦將呢個投資咧帶翻你生命裏邊，好好去利用佢。物質嘅世界唔會影響你修行，只不過佢會幫你修得更加完美、更加活潑，活出一個彩虹，去幫我哋香港，我哋香港人，我要幫香港，幫到香港呢，即係幫到我哋中國，幫到中國呢，即係幫到呢個世界。咁咧，呢個今晚我嘅一個總結。咁喺度呢，我首先都好多謝大光禪師啦咁同埋都好多謝我哋秀峰禪院好多義工啦。咁
We want to thank Zen Master and we also want to thank the volunteers.
咁同埋仲有咧就好多謝大家，你哋抽空你哋好寶貴時間嚟投資有道今晚呢個債券又好，
So Sifu also wants to thank you coming here to make this investment. Invest your time to this Dharma talk.
我喺度祝福大家身體健康，吉祥如意，法氣充滿，念念菩提心，日日是好日。
And I will wish you all well. And every moment a Bodhi mind, and every day is a good day to all of you.
多謝。
Thank you. Thank you.